Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the Comic Book Roundup. We've covered this week's X-Men books and Star Wars books. Now it's on this week's Avengers titles, Spiderman titles, and Miscellaneous Marvel titles. Kicking things off, we've got Iron Man number 11. Where we left off, Iron Man was stranded on an unknown world that was apparent that had a small colony of various sentients. And the person in charge of that colony was none other than Stiltman. And while everything seemed great, there was one simple, teensy problem. Every now and again, an Ultimo would show up and, fuck shit up and maybe eat a few of the colonists, and so, yeah. Meanwhile, of course, Tony ended up here while trying to track down Korvac, reborn in an android body, and while the rest of Tony's crew is still on its way to stop Korvac from taking Galactus' world ship, Ta-2. The issue begins after the most recent Ultimo attack. The colonists are burying the dead. Iron Man suggests to Stiltman, hey, why don't I'll go find out where these Ultimos are coming from and, stop them from showing up. But he's talked out of it by Stiltman. Hellcat then contacts him telepathically. And, basically say, hey, we're about to world ship. We have no idea where you're at, so, yeah. But we beat Korvac here. But, Hellcat has discovered that Tony has turned off his morphine governor, so... And she straight up asks him how high he is, and he responds, very. But as they head off to Ta-2, she suggests that he turn the medicine governor back on, the morphine governor back on, before, they lose him permanently. And no one's really hopeful about their chances on the mission. But later that night, Tony goes off to look at the remains of the Ultimo that they just trashed. But what is this guy's name? Oh yes, Avro X, who's kind of a Canadian knockoff of the Great Value version of Iron Man, stops him, and they do some basically. Tony smacks the guy around a bit and does the exploring he was planning to do anyway, and finds some chips that are very clearly made on Earth. And so Avro and Iron Man go to talk to Stiltman, and they bring their findings to him. Basically Stiltman's sort of controlling the Ultimos. Turns out that Stiltman has no interest in getting rid of the Ultimos. Why? Because it prevents dissent. If, they keep seeing, oh, we have a threat to worry about, then, yeah, everyone's going to work together. No one's going to try and overthrow him. But the rest of the colonists find out what's happened, and they are not too happy, and they drag Stiltman away. And the Living Tribunal shows up. And he basically explains that, Yours is about to be, there's about to be catastrophic imbalance, and yeah, you have to be there, be on, the world ship. So Iron Man and Avro X are teleported to the world ship, and upon arriving, they set off the security systems, and that is where the issue ends. I'll be honest, I liked the idea that Siltman changed. Was actually on this other planet was suddenly a force for good, and it feels cheap to just say nope, nope, nope. Yeah, he wasn't terrible, but he wasn't like actively terrible and hurting people, directly. But he was still kind of being shitty, and I just it could just be he changed, but I guess they wanted to make sure they still could have Daredevil punch Siltman in the face every now and again, or Spiderman, or I don't know, D-Man. No, really, that's an actual character, D-Man. Look it up. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Spider-Woman number 14. Where we left off, Spider-Woman's apartment was attacked by mercenaries and trying to steal data of her that she had from the High Evolutionary. And she chased them all the way from Manhattan, Jersey, where it kind of seemed like maybe her brother may have been behind the whole thing. So the issue begins, but we get a quick little recap. Her telling Lindsay McCabe, occasional actress, stuntwoman, and one of Jessica Drew's best friends, basically relocated across the country from L.A. to help Jessica with her son Jerry, since Jessica's boyfriend, Jerry's dad, left her. And to be fair, I can't blame the guy, But, so she at least goes to the office. Apparently, Martian Pharmaceuticals had their softball league game against X-Corp today. Apparently, X-Corp won. When you're going up against a team of Madroxes, just give up. The Madroxes are going to win. And he was not behind hiring all the mercs to go after Jess. His assistant was. Rose Roche, Esquire. And she apologized, she's apologetic, and turns out while they had the information to potentially cure Michael's daughter's bone density issues, they weren't sure it would work on a regular person. It worked on Jessica, but Jessica's got powers, so, So they tried it on Rose. But when it worked on Rose, okay, well, let's try it on, let's try it again. And, well, yeah, apparently the disc erased itself. So they figured, okay, if we get Jessica's disc, that'll, we can, and basically kind of a, hey, we can do more than just say, Martian's kind of saying, I can do more than just save my daughter. I can, save who knows how many people. And so she says she'll at least think about it. She's not. She thought about it. And she has no intention of handing it over. Lindsay suggests the possibility of of going and helping Jess deal with Martian pharmaceuticals and whatnot. And hey, well, who's gonna watch the baby? It's like, well, we bring the baby with us. We get this really amusing page of Jess and Lindsay fighting off bad guys while Lindsay wears a baby carrier on her chest with the baby in it, and the baby actually kind of helps because, well, I mean, Jess's baby does have powers, so you know. But no, Jess is going to go in by herself. And they figured out she would probably do that, so they got a female security team who won't be affected by Jess's pheromones. But Jess and Rose fight it out. And it turns out they managed to replicate they managed to somewhat replicate things on their own. And then tested it out on Michael. And while he's recovering from being tested upon, from having, you know, basically being a guinea pig for his own experiments, his hair is falling out, and yeah, it's clearly messing him up. And they combine what materials they had with the Martian formula that was used on Jess in the earlier arcs of the series. But we got some webbing powers, but in the end, Michael's daughter, Jessica's niece, Rebecca, comes in, sees what's going on, and, you know, she's not too happy to see her dad kind of, you know, attacking Aunt Jess. As a big ass white spider symbol appears on his chest, and he basically said, you know, everyone, you know, well, yeah, Rebecca can call him Dad, but everyone else has to call him Eternum. And that is where the issue ends. Alright, good stuff. I get the feeling that it's cool. It's actually kind of nice seeing Jess get her own villains for once, rather than just having to deal with, you know, pick a random C or D lister, or you know, maybe a B lister on a good day. You know, it's nice to see her get her own villains. But I can't help but think that they're pushing her to have her own villains because we're probably going to be seeing her, you know, in some form or fashion in the MCU in the near future. And well, hey, well, everyone's got to have bad guys to fight in their movies, right, or series. So anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Black Cat #9. Where we left off, Felicia Hardy had pulled one over on Nick Fury Jr. She had actually managed to outfox him. And what did she get? What did she steal from Nick Fury Jr.? Star. The recently new supervillain who has an Infinity Stone stuck in her chest. The Reality Stone, to be exact. So, Star wakes up, and, well, while Star's waking up, we get a little bit of exposition from Felicia, you know, about how in the Thief game, super crooks are a little tricky to deal with in meetings. They like to show off their powers, to flex a little, make you shake in your boots at their awesome and uncanny abilities. And she uses the example of the Rhino, for instance, who will basically crush a pool ball in his hands. And apparently she's been to 3 different meets with the Rhino over the years. And there was actually one time where there wasn't a pool ball there. He brought one from home just to crush and grind into dust. Just to say, look what I can do. But she prefers to go with hospitality. You know, at least try that first. Try that route first. So, breakfast. So, you know, lunch, champagne, you know, just try and explaining what's going on. She implies she's been hired by someone, most likely Dr. Doom. From what she says, Dr. Doom. And, well, Monica Rappaccini AIM Scientist Supreme, she's got cancer. He wants wants to get over it. So, and since Star can basically, with the reality gem, tell reality how it's going to be, they figure, hey, she can do that. Star's actually not sure she could do that with cancer, though. It would probably just come back. Then Felicia suggests she's got a way of maybe making things a little stronger, and she has a means of making sure that Fury can't track Star. Also, if Star double crosses her, well, yeah, they can put they will take her down. She agrees, but she eavesdrops a bit and hears the entirety of Felicia's plan, which is bring together the rest of the Infinity Stone hosts. Two of them are in New York at the moment, Quantum and Overtime, and have them basically boost her power, the power of the reality gem. It's not clear whether or not she actually is working for Doom or if she's just using the implication to get her way. But seemingly, Black Cat rescues Overtime from being attacked by two of Fury's goons, who turn out to actually be Doc Corpse and Bruno. And she basically, and Overtime wakes up on her couch, and she's got buckets of fried chicken for him, so they can discuss it working together. And that is where the issue ends. On the only downside of the entire issue, in my opinion, really was that Marvel's release schedule when it comes to this year's annuals has been a little off, and the Avengers annual, which is referenced in here, hasn't come out yet. But suffice to say that apparently, according to Black Cat, in that Star gets put into that's when Star got put into the stasis pod by Fury. Which brings us to our, however, otherwise a solid issue of Black Cat. Like I said, I'm not entirely certain if she's actually for Doctor Doom or if she's implying it and just trying to come up with stuff on the fly to get Star to work with her. But we will see. Anyways, on to our next book. We've got Mazman, the Mazman Spiderman Annual. So this is part of one of the Infinite Destinies annuals. It does not feature an Infinity Stone empowered character, but yeah. Anyway, it does feature Amulet as a guest star. Amulet being a I don't necessarily want to say a Miss Marvel supporting character, but I guess he is a fellow Jersey hero. They're in Red Hook, Brooklyn, and the kid's walking somewhere. So he's arrived at his destination when he's attacked by some kind of monster, and well, yeah. In Jersey City, we get Amulet. He and his family are playing Tarnib when they get the call that, yep, they're one of the gotta do the hero thing. So Amulet suits up, goes out, tracks it down, and runs into Miles fighting basically a giant Cyclops. But both of them were kind of sad that they couldn't save the kid from being killed by the Cyclops. And Miles gives Amulet some advice. Basically, you can't let that get. You can't focus on that. You have to focus on stop. If you find a bad guy, and they've already killed someone. Yes, it's a bad thing, but you can't dwell on that. You gotta focus more on the fact that you did good. You potentially stopped them from killing someone else. Amulet also explains what's going on, what the deal is with the monsters, which is in fact his entire shtick. So, 1,500 years, the way it goes, 1,500 years ago, monsters invaded Baghdad. Demons, ghouls, cyclops, 1,000 of them, tearing through the streets, eating people's babies, the army of the devil. A wizard named Red Owl shows up and promises to save everyone, and he does so. Objects are sealed away, and all the monsters are banished to ordinary objects. But the Caliph, well, doesn't like the fact that Red Owl's, beloved by the people, and so declares that Allah forbids magic, and Red Owl is clearly a witch who's in league with the demons, and so he's executed. But he curses those who he just saved for betraying him. Sends 1,000 cursed things scattering across the earth, each object fully encircled with the spirit of a monster. And then another one shows up, a rock, and takes Spider-Man prisoner, delivering him to Red Owl. Though he was supposed to grab it, the rock was supposed to grab Amulet. Miles fights off the rock while before an Amulet arrives. The two of them team up against Red Owl. The rock is destroyed, and the construct of Red Owl destroys itself. Kind of I will, one of these days, I will be back. Both of them return home, though it's been a rough night for each of them. Amulet doesn't entirely feel like a hero. But they're both glad to be back home with family. So, which brings us to Infinite Fury Part 7. Where we left off, Nighthawk had recruited Nick Fury Jr. to be his new Falcon. And the idea was that the two of them were going to bring back Nighthawk, the Heroes Reborn Earth. However, some control words slipped out. Fury looked in the mirror and uttered some control words and undid the brainwashing that Nighthawk had done to him. So they're going after Star. But apparently Nighthawk has a plan for everything. And with Star, his plan was Fury with a rifle that would, allow him to neutralize Star. But what Nighthawk doesn't realize is that his sidekick Falcon is no longer his sidekick, but rather has his head back on straight. And the story ends with Fury telling Nighthawk that his name's not Falcon, it's Fury. And proceeded to then shoot Nighthawk. Or at least shoot at Nighthawk. And that is where the issue ends. The A story was pretty decent. It's not... This is kind of the exception to the rule. You get the regular writer to write the annual and it feels like it fits. It doesn't feel off, but it doesn't... doesn't feel like it truly fits anywhere particular, I guess. Maybe it would come out between the conclusion of the Clone Saga and the Fallout issue. Maybe it meshed a little better, but yeah. Of course, Infinite Fury is, as usual, the highlight of the issue. But I mean, and to be fair, this is not the worst. This isn't the worst of the Infinite Justice annual. It's just kind of, it is. It's not terrible. It's not great. It just simply is. I am kind of digging Annual. I'd be kind of need to see more of him though. I realize, yes, one way to see more of him would be reading Miss Marvel, and who knows, at some point I will hopefully maybe I'll be picking that book up again. But yeah. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Guardians of the Galaxy number 17. Where we left off, Sword had entered the fray. Though they were keeping a few things hush-hush from the Kree and the Skrulls and the Guardians. Namely that they are blocking communications to Alpha Flight and the Avengers. Also, it does appear that Captain Glory has died in an attempt to protect the Kree-Skrull alliance. But we see that a pattern is forming to the worlds that Dormammu is going after. That's the only thing that makes any kind of sense about it, because, well, Holla at the construction site. Skrullos is a museum. Spartax is at least a capital planet, but the Spartoi are minor players at best, finding solace in ancient beliefs as their empire crumbles. They are apparently, however, he's also going to Ares, the Shi'ar planet of historical importance, but little practical significance. And it's just those particular four. Then Doom pauses, what if there's a fifth world? And it would be basically it would form a summoning circle on one of the Chitauri planets. So Doom and Rocket came up with a plan. Nova and Gamora don't entirely trust it. Quill's going with his gut. It feels like that's the place to be. But Quill's going to be going to the Chitauri, while Quill, as well as a few others, going to the Chitauri, while Nova and the others are going to go to Spartax. But Nova and Gamora both try to get Peter to see their side of things, but his cosmic awareness is kind of telling him that no, this is the right thing to do. So, in order with Chitauri Prime, turns out that while on Araco, Doom spoke with some of the Rigelians and performed certain favors and got a staging post of sorts. He's been waiting there for about 10 minutes. Turns out that since the Chitauri are not part of the Galactic Council, their world already fell, and no one knew about it. In fact, it fell rather easily because of how the Chitauri worked. He kind of just had to, Dormammu kind of just had to show up and beat the biggest, baddest son of a bitch in the yard, and took it and became the boss. But it turns out that the staging post is a terraforming assistance platform, taking the ores within the ring around Chitauri Prime and creating Doombots, which then go after the Chitauri, which go to fight the Chitauri. And now the rest of the Guardians are like, maybe this was not a... Maybe Nova was right, you know? On Spartax, Quasar's already there, and then swaps places with Quasar, while Nova and Gamora, Super Skrull, and Mantis all show up, continuing to take on the mindless one, the army of mindless ones. But a giant summoning circle appears in space. Nova asks Quasar, wasn't there a point where, you know, Galactus kind of boosted Ego's power levels and he was able to make like a body? And Quasar's like, yeah, but he really can't do that again, especially now Galactus is, you know, dead. Well, yeah, Dormammu kind of did that. And he now has a body to go along with his giant flaming planet-sized head. And that is where the issue ends. Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy is getting... Guardians getting really interesting. In the Last Annihilation is definitely something to behold. Which it will continue, I think, next week in the... I think it's the Cable one-shot is the next one. Yeah, that's next. That'll be next week, so... I kind of like how some members of the team that went with Doom were just like, okay, maybe, maybe Nova's right about Doom. It'll be interesting to see where that all goes. Moving on to our next book, we've got Kang the Conqueror, #1. Kang the Conqueror, time traveler, conqueror, ruler, he who remains. Yeah. Villain in the upcoming Ant-Man and Wasp threequel. Simply put, we get Kang. So it's a retelling slash retcon slash the origin of one of Kang's variants. Yeah. But young Nathaniel Richards, who becomes Kang the Conqueror, grew up in the 31st century. He would eventually he would find Latveria, raid Doomstot, and meet his future self. And his future self takes him throughout time to train him. To basically turn Nathaniel Richards into Kang. I'm kind of leaning more towards this being one of the various other versions of Kang, because there's the young Kang, upon meeting his future self, opted to go into the past to become Iron Lad and form the new Avengers to prevent himself from becoming Kang the Conqueror. However, he had to become Kang because, well, not becoming Kang messes up all reality. But then he gets to see the end. Young Kang gets to see the end of the Cretaceous period. He also gets to see various other points in time, including during his reign as Ramatut being defeated by the Fantastic Four, and battle against the Avengers. Making a treehouse, but he also explains his love is his greatest weakness, because Kang loved Ravonna and she died, and well, that became his greatest weakness. And at first young Kang was all like, okay, yeah, well, I can, until he meets just that right woman from the late Cretaceous. They talk, they dance. He gets marked by the elders of her people. They dance. Goes back to tell Kang, no, it's different. And, well, yeah. Then future Kang goes and wipes out the people. And so young Kang lets future Kang get good and drunk, and maybe intoxicated, makes it a little more intoxicated than normal. Steals the armor, and as the asteroid arrives that wipes out the dinosaurs, Kang makes his first trip through time on his own. But things go wrong, and he ends up he goes as far forward as he could manage, far from Kang as he could run. Ends up in somewhere with scorching heat, figuring, oh, he must end up with the heat death of the universe. No, he's in Egypt during the rule of Pharaoh Rama-Tut, also known as Kang the Conqueror. And that is where the issue ends. Okay, it's an interesting. If I recall, Kang's origin largely has kind of just been told in bits and pieces throughout his appearances in various Avengers books over the year, Avengers and Fantastic Four books over the years. So it's kind of nice to get a singular series that kind of focuses more on his origins. So, but I don't like that they basically, at least this particular Kang variant doesn't have the Iron Lad experiences. But oh well. Anyway, moving on to the last book for now, Moon Knight number 2. Where we left off, Moon Knight had formed the Midnight Mission, but another Fist of Khonshu took umbrage with how Moon Knight is running the Midnight Mission, and the fact that Khonshu is imprisoned in Asgard. So the issue begins with a bunch of seemingly possessed old people taking on a fairly young man. At the mission, Moon Knight is talking with one of the vampires that he's recently taken in, Reese, explaining that last 2 nights he's dealt with a bunch of old people who were seemingly possessed. When the young man from earlier comes in, Reese helps Moon Knight deal with the kid's injuries. Guys referred to simply as Soldier. The blood does, however, get to Reese a little. She is a recently turned vampire, but she has to leave very suddenly because, yeah. But Moon Knight tends to get to the bottom of things, and so goes into the building. Soldier's going to go grab his gun. But everyone else in the building comes after Moon Knight. Turns out it's a janitor who's been... he sweats things that... His sweat makes people open to suggestion. And with old people, they don't need too much, so he's been putting in the water supply. So Moon Knight makes a deal. Maybe okay, look, you can have me. And so Moon Knight takes some of it, licks the janitor's sweat, until Holly tells him that Holly's never seen anything like what's in Moon Knight's head. And yeah, he never has, and is left a gibbering mess by everything he sees. And so all of the people in the building are now okay. Holly is, like I said, Holly's not the gibbering mess, just saying the word moon over and over again. Though before all of that, he did intimate that someone had hired him. But Reese explains what happened to Moon Knight, and Moon Knight apologizes for putting her in the position of being exposed to blood. He wasn't really... He wasn't really thinking about it at the moment. He simply reacted. But they talk, and because he explains he does understand what it's like to be fundamentally changed, turn into something you don't fully comprehend. And he tells Reese that they decide what they do with what has been done to them, make their own decisions, understand ways in which they've been changed and broken, and use those to destroy their enemies. As he's giving her this speech, however, he's being watched by the other Fist of Khonshu, Hunter's Moon, and that is where the issue ends. First off, going to go ahead and call it. Hunter's Moon hired Holly. So far, the new Moon Knight book is off to a good start, and I hope that we get a nice long run with this. But we'll see what happens there. The art is just right. The art is just right, I would say, for the crazy of Moon Knight plus this type of Moon Knight's particular brand of crazy, as well as the type of stories that Moon Knight usually gets involved in. So, yeah, there's a reason it was a it was a thumbnail book. Anyway, that's gonna do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.